We are joined by Maureen from Autism at the Parks
to give us her top places and islands and studios to escape the crowds.
This is episode 562 of the Unofficial Universal Orlando Podcast. Hello, everybody. I am Michelle, your host for today. And luckily, with me, I have lots and lots of estrogen, even though Tracy is out of town. And I miss her dearly. But Leah's done a good job replacing you for this week, at least. So with me, I have Lee.
Hello, everyone.
I do not have Christopher. He is away for the day at the beach. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, I guess.
Apparently he's been there for a week at this point then, if we're going by that.
That's true. And then we also have with us Shelby.
Hello.
Hello, Miss Shelby. You probably heard her last week if you listened to that episode. And then with us today, we have a special guest, Maureen, with Autism at the Parks.
Hi, thanks for having me.
A voice we have not heard on the podcast for a very long time.
It's been too long.
It's been a very long time, actually.
A very long time.
It really has.
I don't know that she's been on since I've been hosting, has she?
Probably not.
I don't think I have.
Because that like regular segment for like quite a while.
Yeah.
And then
COVID hit, and then
well, yes. The gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on.
Yeah, so glad to have you back. So let's jump in. So as the parks have been increasingly more crowded since the pandemic, we thought now would be a great time to update our list of places to get away from the crowds at the parks. So Maureen has come up with 5 places each in both islands and studios to give you a break from the masses. And we're going to start off with Islands of Adventure.
So before we get into that, obviously, Maureen, for your qualifications for this, obviously you have Zach. Zach has autism. So obviously these like places like this are something that's very near and dear to your heart, of knowing like if he's having a meltdown, to get away from those crowds. It's funny, actually, we dealt with it last year a little bit because our youngest she's not been diagnosed, but there's definitely autism or ADHD or something in there. Sensory issues, and we went to Horror Nights last year and she really struggled with it last year, and I know like dealing with getting her away from stuff at Horror Nights was really difficult. And then it made me realize, as someone that it doesn't affect, I deal with crowds all day long, but wandering around, putting myself in her position, realizing theme parks are not good places if you have sensory issues.
Yeah, it can get very overwhelming, and just knowing the cues with Zach, he's nonverbal and he's 28, so we've been around him a while.
Yeah.
So we catch the cues if he's getting a little overwhelmed, but it's good to have a plan ahead of time to know, just to be informed where these are in the park. So you can go, oh, we're over here at this location. There's a quieter area right around the corner.
Because obviously last year they put in the quiet room at the front of the parks?
Yes.
Have you used that at all?
We have not used that.
Okay.
It does seem to be a little triggered, more towards younger children. No? Is that something that Zachary would utilize?
At his age, we probably wouldn't utilize it.
Okay. But
it's great that it's there because, just to step out. So that would be helpful. But, if you're over in Diagon Alley, it's not going to be practical to go to the front of the park.
Yeah, it's strange that they put up an area like that at the front of the park because, like you say, if the moment happens, it's happening then. You're not going to have the luxury of time to go from, like you say, well, anywhere probably in the park at that point to go to that location. It's not really feasible.
Well, what would be the only thing that I can think of how it would be helpful is if you think that your only option is to head out of the park, right? So you're like, we're just going to go back to the hotel because I can't deal with this. So you get back to the front. You're like, well, here's one last chance. Let's go in here and see if we can, chill out and give the parks a second chance.
Yeah.
Without having to go all the way back to the hotel. That's the only thing I could think of as for its placement.
Right. And that's a great idea. That's a great suggestion. And that they really want to stay, but it's a little too much right now. Maybe that would be a good option. Okay, let's take a walk over here. And we know this room over here is quiet.
Yeah. But then again, that's why I've invited you on, because sometimes, like you say, if it is happening and it's a big one, then knowing there's somewhere close to just be able to step away is of a huge amount of use.
It definitely is, because it can get very stressful, and
I'm
you know,
sure.
you don't, you know, and people are curious by nature, not necessarily mean, and you know, you're going to call attention to yourself if you know, if your family member is, you know, having some issues. So the quiet space is also another reason why you might want to go there instead of maybe in somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Maureen at Islands of Adventure, tell us, let's just, in no particular order, let's just start with the first place that you have on your list.
Okay, I have 8, but I'll give you my top 5. Okay, so I can kind of lump some together. The waterfront areas, the walking paths. Now, Mythos right over there where it's open, the walking paths by the waterfront.
Yes.
And also in Port of Entry. Now, I know some of these are smoking areas, but it's usually not crowded. If you need to avoid the smoking part, you know, you can. So another one of my places is Camp Jurassic.
Okay.
Now you think,
That's a good one.
it's quieter there. It's shaded. If you're getting a little overheated, it's shaded. You can go into one of the little caves even if you need to and just chill out, and you can take a walk in the back there. And it's been really helpful for us, you know, and it gives you something else to do or to focus on, and there's not so many people around. So that's one of the places that I recommend.
See, that's interesting. I would have, that to me, when you suggested that, I'm like, but it's like a kids' play area. I would have expected it to be the opposite, if anything.
Well, the times that I've been there, of course, there's kids around, but you can find a spot,
Okay.
you know, that's not too busy. It's off the regular beaten path right there, the regular walk area.
Yeah.
And if you're right in that area, you're like, oh, let's go over here, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. The times that I've been in there when Krista was younger, it was never crowded. Like there might have been a couple of kids running around, but it's pretty big. So there was never like a congestion area where there were a lot of kids.
Okay. Because it is kind of off you've got to you're not really going to walk past it, are you? It's like, unless you go on, the only time we've ever been in Camp Jurassic was when we did Pteranodon Flyers with the kids, and you come out that way. So I don't even know, like we haven't even seen half of what that area offers. So I suppose from our point of view, I'll take your word on it because we've not really been in there, to be honest.
You should try it sometime because it's nice and calming, and you can just find a new area to go to.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. And it's an interesting spot. I follow a lot of families on Instagram that have children with different special needs. So I could see where it could be a plus and a minus. Like, for instance, there's only one way in and one way out of that place. It's not blocked off like it would be at one of the Disney playgrounds, as far as you have to exit. Like there's a team member making sure that kids are exiting with their families. It's not like that, but there still is only one way in, one way out. So if you need to just let your kid run around for a second, you kind of can, and not have to watch them the whole time.
Okay.
However, also, being a hover mom when Krista was young, it was a little bit stressful because there are lots of little nooks and crannies for them just where you can't see them if you feel like you need to keep your eye on them. So if you have a child with a special need who tends to be a runner, where you feel like you need to keep your eye on them, that might be an issue. But then also, like, there's this little girl that I follow who needs, in order to, she has sensory input needs where she needs to climb all the time. So that would actually be a good thing for her. So it is a quiet space, and it can be, but however, the layout of it makes it so that you can't necessarily keep your eye on your kid at all times if they run. So there's that to know.
I've definitely gotten lost in there before as an adult. So
yeah.
There's a lot of places to hide.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. All right. Another area that in the Port of Entry area, the waterfront, it's just calming there, and you can see the other attractions, and it's just very calming area.
Yeah, that's the one behind the tip board, is it? The smoking area. There's never anybody in there.
Yeah, and all these places are also like stroller and ECV accessible.
That's good to know.
So if you have to keep them in the stroller, especially if they're at the point where they are having some meltdown issues.
Yeah.
And if you need to keep them in the stroller, you can, and still access these quieter areas, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And even though it's a smoking area, it is large, because that used to be also during COVID, one of the COVID rescue, like the mask-free areas.
It did, yeah.
Mask-free / smoking. So you could go and relax on an opposite side and not have to smell the people's smoke. So
yeah, I still hate the fact that they put that area as a smoking area. It's one of the best places in the park to view the entire park. And it's like, I know.
It's very true.
Let's put all the smokers there. Brilliant. Cheers for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also think a lot of people don't know it's there. Like, it's kind of hidden when they have like other things set up. You don't know that you can walk down to the water.
Yeah.
So that also might be a plus for that area too.
That is a good point, because
sure.
you think if you walk up port of entry, the big wait time board is there and it's behind that. So you're either going to go right to Zeus Landing or left into Marvel Superhero Island and not realize that you can go behind that. So that probably is a plus.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't really know about it until, I'd gone a couple years and never paid attention to it. And then I was like, wow, look at all this area down here.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It is.
It is.
And great views, like we said.
It's fantastic views, honestly. That's what annoys me about it being a smoking area, because you'd probably spend a lot more time there. But yeah.
Was it initially put in like that for it to be a viewing area for a lagoon show, you think?
I don't know.
I mean, because it's huge. It would make sense.
That's a good question.
But for now, it's just this big open space, which is great for people that need a break.
I don't necessarily think it would be big enough as a viewing area for a lagoon show. If you think like Central Park over at Studios is massive, it's not that big.
It's pretty big.
I will try and find out. I'm sure I know some people.
Not as the sole viewing area. There's lots of areas around the lagoon, but
yeah.
All right. What's your number 3, Maureen?
Okay. Another one is the Zach's Bypass in Seuss Landing. Okay. But the Zach's Bypass, it's really good. It's one of the first places we found when we started going to Islands of Adventure that not many people knew about, or if they did, there aren't that many people that knew about it. And you can go down there. We would even eat lunch down there, because we would bring sandwiches into the park. And right next to Green Eggs and Ham, they have the tables and everything, but you could also go into the Zach's Bypass and go right again along the waterfront, and you can sit there and hear the music and the overhead of the trolley train ride.
Yeah. So that's the area. That's the walkway to the left of Green Eggs and Ham that goes around Seuss Landing, right?
Yeah. So
yes,
it kind of goes from the queues for Quandary bathrooms round to Green Eggs and Ham, right down that side. There's never anybody there apart from.
I didn't know that had a name, to be honest.
Yeah, it's called the Zach's Bypass, and it has the two statues that are pointing.
Michelle, you like to give our listeners an excuse to rag me on. Like, why is Michelle on this show? Because she doesn't seem to know anything. Like, how do you not know that the Zach's Bypass is there?
Thank you, Lee. My goodness.
But how many times do you go, I didn't know that existed, or I didn't know that, or where's that?
I use it all the time. I didn't know it had a name. Shelby, did you know it had a name?
I did not know that had a name.
Oh, Shelby.
And I go there a lot too.
Oh, you could have at least backed me up. Right? So there's literally the sign, like the two Zachs is there. The north-facing Zachs and the south-facing Zachs.
I walk by.
The Zach's Bypass. Tracy would be having a coronary right now if she was here.
I'm sure we'll get messages from her later when she.
I use the bypass every single trip.
And that's the only time it would potentially be busy, is first thing on a morning when people are trying to get to Hagrid's.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. But, other than that, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
Very quiet.
Yeah, very.
Great.
Yeah, because Seuss Landing, that would probably be one of the most overwhelming sensory-wise places in the entire park.
Yeah.
So having the option to completely bypass that, that's funny. To completely bypass all of that overstimulation is brilliant.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and another place in Seuss Landing is between the One Fish, Two Fish ride and the Cat in the Hat ride. If you'll go back behind there, they used to have the stories you'll hear perform there, but it's still there, and it still has like the planters where you could sit on them, and if you're needing to get away while you're if you can't get over to the Zach's Bypass, you can go back there and chill out back there. And it's removed enough that you can get some quiet time. Okay. And
yeah, for definite, that area, because there's like benched seats there and like the walls around the outside. I don't understand why they don't still use it anymore, because that's where we always used to see the other stories you'll hear, and it's kind of weird that they just do it in the middle of Zeus Landing now. But that area is, yeah, when they're not using it, if they're not using it now, then it's a really big open area as well once you get through that initial entrance into it. So that's a great area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they still have the stage back there, the elevated area. So you could even sit on that if you needed to.
Cool.
I mean, this is just a place, if you want to eat your green eggs and ham tots, but don't want to go into Circus McGurkus because it's terrible, then just go down there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how you feel about that, Lee.
Circus McGurkus, it's terrible. I like it in there, but it's horrendous. The food's horrendous. But I do like the fact that the Zeus trolley train ride comes through it, because we like to play the game of who's going to wave? No one. They're all miserable buggers.
Okay. All right. So that was number 4, right? So Maureen, what's your number 5?
Well, my favorite area is again along the waterfront at Me Ship the Olive.
Yes.
If you haven't been down there, you have to go there. Even if it's just, to spray water on the people doing the Bill's Ranch Barges ride. So, but there's so many paths, and it just winds around. And again, like Michelle had said, this area really only has one way in and out. I mean, you're going to come around and circle, you know what I mean? And so you can go down there, and there's several different levels, and you can take the stroller, or the kids can run and that kind of thing. And again, the views are awesome, especially the Velocicoaster from there.
Yeah. It's such a weird area down there, because it's like, if you look, like Islands of Adventure obviously is a circular route, but then once you get to that point, a lot of people don't realise that Me Ship the Olive's down there, because it's not on that route, it's off that route.
It is.
And you've got to make an effort to go down there. And then especially like if you're walking down there, you'll see Me Ship the Olive and go in that. But then like you said, all those walking paths down by the water's edge as well, that people probably don't even know are there. There's never anybody there except vloggers taking videos of Velocicoaster, like you said.
I'm gonna say something else, Lee, that's going to blow your mind. I honestly have not been down there probably in 10 years.
I mean, that's fine. To be fair, we haven't. I think we went down there with the kids when did they redo the Hulk? 2015. I think that was the last time we went down there. Is that right? When did they retrack the Hulk? Was that 2015? Yeah.
I don't know. But the last time I rode either of those water rides in Toon Lagoon was when Krista was 2 years old. She's now 12. And that was the last time that I even went over to where Bilge Rat Barges is. And now Kevin Jocelyn, love you dearly. He's my new agent. So welcome to the team.
Is he? Oh, cool.
I just found out that Popeyes is his favorite ride.
14 times in a row.
Ever. That's his favorite ride. Yeah. So he's totally going to kill me and probably quit working for PortKey now.
He won't, because he messaged me. He messaged me after the show 2 weeks ago when I mentioned that 2 weeks ago when we did our top 5 attractions. He messaged me and he's like, kudos on riding Popeye 4 times, but it still doesn't beat my 14 times in a row. And I'm like, all right, whatever.
Crazy. So I need to get on it again, but 10 years. So Maureen, I need to make another little trip down to Me Ship the Olive on my next trip.
It's great. When I was there a couple weeks ago, I was like, I forgot how calming it is. Yeah. And because it's very shaded. There's not a lot of indoor places at Islands of Adventure that are not crowded anymore, because my top one used to be the Discovery Center.
Yep.
Not anymore.
But it's, it's like, no, it's number 8. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's finding those places that are off the beaten track that people just don't see, and there's quite a few of them in Islands of Adventure.
Yeah. And I know you said that a lot of your places are along the waterfront, but that makes sense. Yes. Water is very calming.
Yes, so it is.
It is, yeah.
Awesome. Did you want to throw in your honorable mentions really fast?
Yeah.
The other one was the path to the Discovery Center. I mean, it's so busy now, but that path between like if you're coming from Harry Potter over to Jurassic Park and then you take a left and go down the walkway to the Discovery Center entrance, there's some benches there and you'll see people walk by. But if you're needing to just get off the main path, that's an area to be familiar with or know. And then you could also, it depends on your family member, but watching the splash of the river ride, that might be calming or take your child or family member's mind off of something else. They might in that splash zone area
over at Thunder Falls.
Yeah.
That would be a place that you might want to think about if you want to get them away from everybody. I mean, it can be crowded there, but it can also be a change of sensory input. Especially if you have the splash and they're attracted to that and they get excited when it happens.
We've generally found that area quite quiet. Tracy and I, we went and got the Kong Dong when we were over in December and sat outside of Thunder Falls Terrace. Look, you didn't get the video that Tracy wanted to put. It's like, can Tracy take on Kong's Dong? And it's like, no, I don't think we should do that. She finished the whole thing anyway. But it was relatively quiet and there wasn't anybody there because I don't think Thunder Falls Terrace, I mean, stop me if I'm wrong, I don't think a lot of people actually use Thunder Falls Terrace that much. I've never seen it busy.
I haven't either.
No, and the outside seating's quite nice as well.
Yes.
And it's generally pretty quiet. So yeah, that's a good area.
For sure.
Yes. Now also first aid. Sometimes you can go to the first aid station and if you need a place, just to keep that in mind at both parks.
Okay.
The first aid station, that's quiet also.
Yeah.
And that can help you if you really need to get away from everybody and that sensory room's not available.
Yeah.
You can go into the first aid.
Where is the first aid located in Islands?
In Islands, there's one located just by the guest services lobby to the right of the main entrance turnstiles.
Okay.
And then the main health services, it's near Old Sinbad's Village in Lost Continent.
So over in Lost Continent, you go past Mythos, and where is it in conjunction to the fountain?
It'll be to the right. It's the fountain. Let me make sure I'm telling you right. Because
maybe over by the bathrooms, like in that area?
Yes, it's right over by the bathrooms.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Right there. And has a first aid station there.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be fair, Sinbad, the old theatre, is still open. That's probably a really good place.
That was one I had taken pictures of the other day and forgot to write down. Yes, that's still great to go over that area to just hide out. When I was there the other day, all that area over there was still open and no construction or anything. So
I mean, let's be honest, you could probably put the entirety of the Lost Continent on that list at that point because some people are only walking through because it's not like there's anything to make you stop in there anymore.
Nope.
No.
Now with Poseidon's gone, there's no telling what's going to happen to that area back there.
Isn't it? So weird.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about before we got on that you compared this list to the one you did when you were on last time for it, Maureen. Obviously, one of the ones that we talked about was behind the Discovery Centre, which at the time would have been one of the top places. And now, not anymore.
Yeah, inside the Discovery Center was our go-to place a lot, especially in the bottom level because nobody was down there, and now it's like, when I walked by there and I was like, oh my gosh, boy, there's a lot of people here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's half of it's a gift shop now. So yeah.
Cool.
Very good. Awesome. Well, that does it for Islands. So let's take a quick break before we head over to studios.
Man, we need a vacation.
Oh, I got this.
Whoa, that's awesome. But I was thinking something a little more adventurous.
Okay, how about this?
Yes!
Woo! How about some relaxation from Mama?
Oh, perfect. Wait, how did you do that?
Easy. PortKey Vacations.
For your next vacation, let PortKey Vacations take away all the guesswork and stress of planning. From air and hotel to theme park tickets and everything else in between, they've got you covered. Just visit PortKeyVacations.com and touch the PortKey to get started with your free, no-obligation quote request. With just one touch, and PortKey Vacations will magically take you wherever you want to go.
Welcome back, everybody. Now we are going to move on over to the Universal Studios side of Universal Orlando and see what Maureen has to give us for some break places when you need a little break for that special family member in your life.
This one I'm interested about because I can't really think of anywhere other than one area in studios. I think studios is much more difficult than islands to find spaces, so I'm quite intrigued by this one.
Yeah, me too. I'm thinking about it too, and I really can't think of more than one. So, all right.
Well, I have 7.
Okay.
Well, look at you.
So, well, just a reminder, the first aid area, also, there's 2 first aid places in Universal, and one's at the main entrance to the park, and the other one is on Canal Street between New York Street set and this. It's right by Fast and Furious entry. The park there.
Yeah.
It'll be on the left.
I didn't even know that was called
alleyway.
Canal Street. So there you go. You learn something new every day.
Now you didn't know
the name of a
All
street,
right.
Lee? What?
All right.
I didn't know it was Canal either.
I've never professed to be an expert on this stuff, but I know most things.
How can you be of a podcast if you don't know the name of a street, Lee?
Shut your face. How can you run a bloody travel agency? You haven't got Tracy here to back you up now.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right. So we know where the first aid stations are.
Yes.
What's your number one? Your number one on your list for break places?
Central Park.
Okay.
Is the number one area.
Yeah.
It's just great. You can go down any area and you can get away from everybody. You'll be shaded, and there's the water in front of you, and it's a great place. And it doesn't get that crowded, but it's my number one pick there.
And that's the only place I can think of. So I'm excited about the rest.
I've got another. That wasn't the one that was on my list.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't on my list either, Lee.
Oh, we're probably thinking of the same one.
We might be.
Probably. But yeah, you look back to the weekend, Michelle, when we did our wrap-up for it. That's where we did it because we knew it was a big area that there would be nobody there. And we were right.
And it was perfect.
Yeah, I don't understand why people don't, especially with it being so where Central Park Crepes is, you would assume you buy your crepe and then go and eat it in there. It makes perfect sense to me, yet no one ever goes in there, which is good.
No. Well, there's like tables and stuff just across the way from the crepe place, so...
That's true.
There's not many, though, is there?
Well, that's where I always go when I get my crepe.
Well, good for you. How often do you get crepes? Crepe. Anyway.
Okay, what's the next on your list, Maureen?
Okay. In front of animal actors, there's a covered area with picnic tables.
Oh.
Near the restrooms.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Shelby.
I was going to ask, did they take away those tables after Mardi Gras?
No, they were there.
They brought. Okay, all right.
Last week.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, because they were there when we were out for Horror Nights. We sat under there one night when we met up with a friend of ours, and I was Jade. It was absolutely pouring down, and we did Stay and Scream. We were sat in there, so yeah, that's a great. And it'll probably be even more empty now because you haven't got that influx of people going into Kids Zone that you used to have.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
it's always been our favorite place in the park to go to. We'd have lunch there.
Yep.
And you have tables to sit, and this near the restrooms, and it's just great. And if it's raining, it's covered.
Yeah.
That's
perfect.
A good place.
It really is perfect. Like, where you literally lay it all out there, it is the perfect place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why we didn't even think about that for a place to gather for the weekender. We'll put that on our list.
Great.
It's going to be busy now because all the people listening to this podcast are going to be there because apparently on UUOP, Maureen said it was the best place to be. It was quiet, no one there. And now everyone's going to be there.
Okay, now this other one I was surprised was still there, but it's still there. Okay, where Fear Factor used to be, the show entry area in World Expo, because there's places to sit. It's off the beaten path. It's kind of shaded, and it's a really good place to go, and it's not very far from the restrooms. Right there outside Diagon Alley.
Shelby, was that what you had?
That's what I had too.
Yeah,
I was
too.
actually just going to mention, Maureen, this is also great information for other people who may have to take like a phone call in the park. I've definitely found myself like trying to find a quiet place that there isn't like music blaring in the background or people who are just there like in my face. And I'm trying to like make a phone call. My husband called me from that area last week, and it was like he was at like a regular park, like just like outside somewhere. Yeah. So that place, that area is ideal.
That's good. That's a good point. And I'm one of those people that sometimes find myself needing to do some type of a travel agency transaction while I'm there. And that's good.
I suppose potentially if you were recording a podcast in the park, a nice quiet area to be would be knowing good places to be quiet would be a good one. But that was
especially we need one of these. Maureen, can you do an HHN version of this for me, please?
There is one, isn't there? Sterling Denim did one last year.
I've never been to 8 Halloween Horror Nights. So.
Wait, what? You've never been to Halloween Horror Nights?
That doesn't surprise me, to be fair.
I know, you're going to have to take my blogger card away now. But I would sincerely appreciate the artistry and talent that went into Halloween Horror Nights. I would love to do a back scenes tour, but there's no way you're going to get me to go into those houses.
That's definitely fair.
But I could find the quiet places during Halloween Horror Nights. That would be a mission for me.
Would you go and not go to the houses and just do the scare zones?
Not by myself, no.
I'll go with you.
Okay.
Maureen. Yeah.
But yeah, Michelle, there was a quiet area map last year that Sterling Denim did.
Was there?
Yeah.
Where?
They put one out last year on Instagram. So
yes, you're right. You're right. Sterling did do that.
Yeah.
Well, I know it was that the one where it was the place to get away from the scares, or was it like genuinely quiet places? I'm thinking in terms of podcasting.
I think it was a bit of both, to be fair, because I know like one of the areas, because like I say, when we went, Jade had a bit of a meltdown one night and we ended up down so the alley just across from where the Transformers meet and greet is, because it's generally quiet down there. There's no scare actors or anything. And we we got a couple of the Arepas from the food truck in outside Rip Ride Rocket and just went and sat in there for 20 minutes just to give her a chance to calm down. It was a really good quiet area.
Okay.
Good.
Because I know when Rush of Fear hosts covered the event last year, one, it was pouring down rain. But two, also, it's just hard during HHN to find any places where there's not blaring sounds behind you.
Yeah, so. I think it is relatively quiet down that alley from what I can remember.
I think you're right. I don't think there's a lot happening down there, especially now. Obviously the construction walls will be gone then, and people will be able to walk through there again. But I think it should still be quiet.
Yeah,
Leaky Cauldron is my place.
Definitely, yeah. Diagon Alley is probably a decent one, to be fair, but Horror Nights is probably even more difficult to navigate and get out of, because I think it's even more sensory overwhelming. It's like I said, with Jade, it's not something I pay attention to, but stood in that that triple switchback behind Jimmy Fallon, where we had like Dead Man's Pier and Chupacabra and Halloween. When after she had that meltdown that night, I was kind of stood there and paying attention to it much more. And I'm like, if you don't like noise and just, I can imagine this is your worst nightmare.
That area was really hard, even when Twister was open. Yeah, it was overwhelming because of the bouncing of the sound off the walls, kind of thing.
But that backstage area behind for those three houses, anytime, is just horrendous.
It is, and even without music or sound effects, just the sound of all of those people standing in line talking. And it reverberating between all of the buildings. Yeah,
it's just a constant hubbub of noise.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
We're not here to talk about Horror Nights. I know I'll be sneaking in every time.
We're talking about studios, so it relates. All right. So she was talking about the Fear Factor.
Yes. I mean, that's the perfect spot. That was, if you'd have asked me off the top of my head, that would have been the one place I would have thought of.
Okay. All right. What you got next, Maureen?
Actually, the concert lawn. Except when they're having concerts, it's a really good area. Just chill out. I mean, it is in the sun. It's not covered.
True.
But
True.
But it's, you can even sit on the ground on the grass, and just get away. You're not wall to wall people there. So.
Hey, I see people taking naps there all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Me too. I don't know how they do it.
It's going to be interesting to see what it'll be like when Minion Cafe and that lot opens, because if people are grabbing food to go from there, potentially that's an area people will sit to eat that. So it'd be interesting to see what happens once that opens. But I still think it's big enough that you could probably still find your own little space to kind of chill out.
Yeah. Now, my next area is Nocturne Alley.
Yes.
Because it's dark and cool. It's cooler and like temperature cool. It's also cool.
Yeah.
But and usually there's benches there. Now, a lot of times they'll be taken up by other people, but you could still, if you had to, you could sit on the ground there against the wall. I've seen people do that. But that's just good if you're getting sensory overload with everything, and just the change in temperature can help.
Yes.
And the darkness and it's a much quieter. So if you're in Diagon Alley, that's a good place to go to.
That's also a good place for a nap.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've only had a nap in the park once in my last few trips, and unfortunately it was sat in Born Stuntacular, and I didn't want to fall asleep because I was enjoying it. But anyway, I was even falling asleep stood in the pre-show. That's how bad it was. I was knackered.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm sure, Maureen, like, again, if there was people sat on those benches, I'm sure if you kind of had a word and said, look, do you mind? Because, whatever's going on, I'm sure people would be nice enough to give up a seat for you if they knew your need was better than theirs.
You would hope. I don't know sure is the word, but...
Surely. Like, I
hope so, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the kind of person I wouldn't ask, but my husband would ask.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, no, we're fine. We're fine. He's like, no, they'll move. Just ask them,
Yeah.
It's strange, isn't it? It seems so counterintuitive to be able to find an area in Diagon Alley that's quiet, but Nocturne Alley is rarely busy.
Yeah.
Well, still, not a lot of people realize it's there.
Yeah, it's strange.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's strange. I mean, I suppose we got one of the hosts of this podcast who couldn't even find his way in or out when it opened, but so there you go. Chris doesn't listen, it's fine. So unless Alexa, please don't tell Chris I was calling him out.
Oh, no.
Now she's good.
Well, and really, unless you're like a Harry Potter fan, because not everybody that goes into that side of those areas of the parks is necessarily a Harry Potter person. So they probably don't know what Nocturne Alley is and don't know to go down there.
That's true.
That's a good point, yeah.
I suppose also, I was going to say there, that second exit, because obviously there's two ways in, the main entrance through the brick wall. That second exit over the other side by the hopping pot and that, not a lot of people know that there, and there's like a weird little covered area there that you could potentially find a bit of space and peace and quiet over there as well.
Right. And that's right at the bathrooms too. The restrooms are right there. So.
Yeah, so it's perfect. I think a lot of people don't really know that there's two ways in.
I think they also maybe walk by and they're like, looks like I can't go in there. And then they turn around.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
it kind of looks like it could be team member entrance, maybe. You know?
It's like
if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. You see, we're giving away all the secrets now.
We are.
It's kind of the whole point of this.
I mean, that's very true. Yeah.
I have two more places.
Okay. I'm struggling now.
At Richter Burgers, there's seating outside along the waterfront.
Oh,
and you can go there through Richter Burgers or right next to Richter Burgers and go out there. And it's been great for us. We've gone, that's where sometimes we'll have lunch or, just need a snack. And if you're sitting there, you can watch the beat builders, the drummers.
Yes.
Zach likes to do that. He likes to do that. And so...
Because you're far enough away from it that the noise isn't going to overwhelm you.
Right,
but
it's not too much.
Yeah.
It's still a nice distraction.
Because that's like down from Bruce the Shark, isn't it? Down the side, like the outside a bit there. Yeah, it's weird. So like the prime example here, Tracy and I have never been there.
Okay.
So that tells
You've never eaten at Richter's?
We've never eaten at Richter Burger, and we've never been out at that back side of it either. We've obviously been down Shea Alcatraz and like took pictures with Bruce, but never actually gone down that walkway.
Go the other side.
Yeah.
To the right of Richter Burgers, and then there's seating there, and
Strange.
then you go out onto the water.
Never been there. So it just shows you that if we're not, I'm not saying that we're like the the be all and end all of Universal people, but the fact that we've never been out there tells you the average guest won't know it's there either.
Right.
It's true. And then I think that was also a location that Sterling probably had on their map.
Probably.
For Horror Nights, because they did have a couple bars back there, but literally no one knew they were there, and it was really quiet. You kind of got away from the insanity of Horror Nights. So,
oh, that's good. And then my last is the New York subway, near the subway entrance. Does that make sense?
Yes. So like where the exit for the tribute store used to be.
Yes, and because it's not an area a lot of people go to. You're going to cut the corner and go to Mummy. But if you go back there, and if you've ever had an event where you've come in the back way into the park, there's a team member entrance back there. Anyway, you can just, if you need an immediate place away from the crowds, that's a place to keep in mind.
That's a good one. And a lot of people don't know it's there again. Doesn't look like you're supposed to go there.
Well, even down in that little subway.
Yeah, that's a really
subway
good
entrance. I mean, that's a nice little cave area to decompress.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people wouldn't think to go down there. Yeah, that's a perfect one.
Mm-hmm.
And then some other places like the little side alleys that are there in New York.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like behind all the little stores and everything. And I think during Halloween Horror Nights, they have a lot going on there. But during regular park time, it's shaded. There's hardly anybody there. That's a good place. And then also that little park right there. And I forget the...
Gramercy. That's Gramercy Park, yeah.
Yeah.
We always get it confused.
Good to sit in too.
But that's a smoking area now as well, isn't it? I think that's the only smoking area. I think we talked about it in the podcast when they did it. There's only 2 smoking areas, one in each park now. It's Gramercy Park in Studios, and then that landing area we talked about at the top of Port of Entry in Islands.
Okay, yeah. That's what I have on those. But one thing I want to recommend is, if you know your family member, you're going to know what the triggers are.
Yes.
To where they might be a little overwhelmed. So keep in mind things that I always advise people is, hunger, overstimulation, thirst, tiredness. Those are all can be triggers to behavior issues. And so if you can keep track of, just make sure they're hydrated and if they're too overstimulated, these are some really good areas to say, okay, let's take a break. We'll eat a snack and chill out and talk about what we've done today and what we're going to do the rest of the day kind of thing.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just looking at Sterling's map from Horror Nights, and it's, funnily enough, a lot of the areas that you've just mentioned, Maureen, to be fair.
Cool.
They've got Today Cafe, Sting Alley, and I don't think Sting Alley. Cafe. I don't think Sting Alley is as much anymore because they've started using that for. There was obviously the Meats locker down there last year for Horror Nights, and then they used it for Mardi Gras for the Japanese booth this year as well.
Yeah, I don't think that's going away.
Yeah, no, I don't either. It was cool Horror Nights last year. We spent quite a bit of time in there actually. Gotham Ice Company, which is a good one, which is like that sort of side street between the Mummy and Louise where the bathrooms are.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Although now there is that is one of the entrances.
For Vamos Bailalo.
Yeah, for all those shows and stuff. So that might not be such a good place anymore.
Yeah. The Lagoon Viewing Area Grass. Where's that? So I'm looking, that's Central Park. Not Central Park. Yeah, Central Park. The back of Richter's. The Animal Actors seating, the Waterview Simpsons seating, which is an interesting one that I'm surprised no one's brought because you never see a lot of people down there either.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty hot back there too, though.
Yeah.
If it's during the day.
Yeah. Waterview London benches, that's not a bad one because a lot of people will go through the front of Diagon Alley and not through that area there. So that's pretty quiet.
I sit there quite often when I get my hot dog or baked potato.
I was going to say my potato over there.
Yeah.
And then Nocturne Alley. So, yeah.
Cool. Good. Well, there's more places at studios than we thought.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's, like I said, Maureen, the reason I wanted to get you on, I know, since COVID, how much more busy Universal Orlando Resort has become and people going more and more. And people do, not even necessarily people with issues, just... People, we get overwhelmed, and sometimes you just need to get away from it, but you don't want to step away entirely. So these this episode is giving people those ideas of like, do you know what? I need a break from this. Where can I go? And here we are. I mean, we should do a map. Is anyone listening who does like kind of mappy things? Give me a message. I think we should do like an actual physical thing that people can take with them to go, all right, we're here. Closest area we can get away from is there.
Well, I mean, and like you said, this is good for anybody that needs a break, whether it be an adult, somebody with special needs, or even just a family with younger children.
Exactly. Like if your kid's being a pain in the ass and you want to drag them somewhere where people aren't going to be judging you for telling them off, one of these places. You know, they're good for many uses. Even
Krista had a meltdown when we were there. I don't remember when it was, but February or something. She had a little meltdown, and we went and sat in the patio behind Three Broomsticks.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a quiet. It's not necessarily so quiet anymore now with the Velocicoaster going by, but it was shady. There were fans. It was a perfect place for her to kind of gather herself and chill out of the public.
I mean, to be fair, it's not even that noisy. Velocicoaster. I like when they put that area in. When we knew Velocicoaster, the double helix was coming in front of that, I was like, I am not happy because that's ruining that area. But it really doesn't.
It didn't. No, I mean you can hear it, but it's not.
Not really. It's
not
incredibly
bad.
quiet.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly quiet.
It's almost calming even to watch the coaster go by.
Because that's where I did my Seekender challenge from, and it was really quiet down there. Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, there's probably other areas we could think of, but again, it obviously depends on the time of year you're going as well, to whether some of these areas. But again, like you said, not just for people who need to get away. If you've got food and you just want to go somewhere where there's not people about just to eat, these places are good for that as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like Lee said, if anybody out there knows how to put together mappy things. And you're interested in doing that for us, I mean, I'll pop it on my PortKey website and we can post it on our socials. Of course, we'd love to credit you, but that's a great idea. That would be helpful to all of our listeners for sure.
Brian, I'm looking at you. You're a graphic designer. I'm sure you could come up with something like this.
And please let us know what the correct term is, because I'm sure it's not mappy things.
Just a map. You know what I was talking about. A map.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you so much, Maureen, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
It was an honor.
Yeah, it's nice to have you back.
I mean, if this is what you think is an honor, then you need to raise your levels a little bit, to be fair. But we appreciate it.
Maybe we can convince you to come out and see us in September.
Yes.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love
Horror
that.
Nights.
I would love that. That would be great.
Cool.
We'll protect you. We'll protect you through the scare zones, okay? We'll put a little circle of UUOP hosts around you through the scare zones.
To be fair, we have a few first-timers with us this trip, so you'll be in good company.
You would.
Oh, that'll be great.
Excellent. Can you let everyone know where they can see what you are up to as far as covering more topics on the internet?
You can catch me on most social media under Autism at the Parks. I have a personal on Twitter, a Maureen Deal. And then my website is autismattheparks.com.
Very good.
It's a wealth of knowledge, that site, for definite.
For sure. Yep. I definitely send clients there quite often. So
thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to end another podcast. We will do so, as always, with the Universal Is. Maureen has accepted our offer to supply this week's. But don't forget, if you would like to get involved, just send us what you think Universal is in 3 words or less to podcast@uuopodcast.com. But for this episode, Maureen, it's over to you.
Universal is an amazing experience.
All right. Bye, guys.
That was another episode of the Unofficial Universal Orlando Podcast, the best and only podcast about Universal Orlando on the island. Check us out on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest. Just search UUO Podcast. For all the podcasts, news, and articles, check out our blog at uuopodcast.com. Contact us at podcast@uuopodcast.com. Join the Producers Club by emailing us at uuopproducers@gmail.com. Listen and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Check out our friends, the Theme Park Duo, for all your other theme park news, and email Michelle at portkeyvacations.net to book your next trip. So until next time, this is Amity 6, call off the Marines, we're coming home.